Hello, and welcome to Merlin's Manor for another Game Mechanic Monday, a series where I talk about various game mechanics or mechanisms and go over a few games that do the mechanism well. Today I want to talk about a classic card game mechanism, and that mechanism is trick-taking. In trick-taking games, you are going to have a hand of cards each round, and generally you're going to be trying to win tricks by playing the highest card that follows the suit led that round. Some trick-taking games have you start by making a bid of how many tricks that you think you can take, and if you fail to make that many tricks, then you will either not get points or may even lose points. The structure of a round typically goes that one player will lead a card and all other players must follow suit if they are able to. The winner of the trick takes it and then they lead a card. Many games include a trump suit, which beats all non-trump cards when played, but of course can only be played if the player has none of the lead suit, or trump is the suit that was led that round. There are, of course, variations from this basic system. So now let's talk about games that do this mechanism well, and I would be remiss not to mention the classic trick-taking game that I grew up on, which can be played with a simple deck of cards, and that is spades. Now the game of spades is typically played with 4 players made up of 2 teams of 2. However, the game can also be played with 3 players as a variant where you remove one of the 2s and every player gets 17 cards and is out for themselves. And there's also a 2-player variant where each player takes turns looking at a card from the top of the deck, choosing whether they want to keep it or discard it, and then take the next one if they discard that. If you keep the first card, then the second card is discarded sight unseen. And then once the deck has been gone through in this way, giving each player 13 cards, the game is played similar to any other game of spades. Now in spades, each team in a 4-player game makes a bid. Some variations allow teams to come up with their bids together, while others have each one make their own personal bid, and then you combine those together. And then players try to make their bids by taking tricks, with spades always being the trump suit. If you can, you will also want to keep the other team from making their bid so they'll lose points. You score the amount of tricks you bid 10 times 10 if you make your bid, and you lose that amount if you don't make your bid. You also get overbooks for extras that you take, and if you get 10 overbooks in total, then you lose 100 points. A single player on a team can also choose to bid nil or 0, and if they make their bid, then they get 100 points, and the other player on the team scores as normal. Some variations allow for teams to bid blind without looking at their hand first for double points if they are behind by a certain amount as a catch-up mechanism. The end of the game is triggered when one or more teams get to 500 plus points, and the team with the most points wins the game. I played countless games of spades growing up, and it is a classic game that I'll always enjoy playing. It is a fairly basic trick-taking game without much of a twist on the genre, yet it still holds up and is a lot of fun. A similar game to spades is a game called diamonds, and in diamonds you have a screen in front of you which will hide how many diamonds you have in your vault. And at the start of each round, the player to the left of the dealer will choose to pass 1 to 3 cards to the player on their left, and then everyone will pass that many cards to the player on their left. The game plays similar to spades in how you try to take tricks, but in this game, every person is playing for themselves, and also something special happens after each trick that is won depending on what the suit was. These special actions are called suit actions, and if the suit was diamonds, then you take a diamond from the supply and you place it inside your vault. If it's hearts, you take a diamond from the supply and place it outside your vault. If spade, you take a diamond from in front of your vault to put it inside. And if clubs, you'll steal a diamond from a player that has a token in front of them and place that in front of your vault. And the next player will get the token and it'll go around the table that way. If you are unable to follow the led suit, then you play off suit and take the bonus suit action based on the card you played. At the end of each round, whoever has the most tricks of each suit gets to take the bonus associated with that suit. If you didn't take any tricks at all by the end of the round, then you get 2 diamond suit actions. You play an amount of rounds based on player count, and at the end of the game, the player with the most diamonds wins the game, and diamonds inside your vault count as 2 diamonds. This is a fun little twist on trick-taking where you're doing more than just trying to win tricks. In fact, a major strategy to this game is to get to the point where you can play offsuit for the bonus actions by short-suiting yourself. This can be done during the passing phase or by strategically playing cards offsuit that you have fewer of when you are able to play offsuit. You also want to focus on getting diamonds into your vault for a couple of reasons. One, to keep them from being stolen by other players, and two, because they count for double. This is a fun, short, trick-taking game with a decent mix of luck and strategy. I would not say it is as strategical as Spades, but it is quicker, and the twist in how you score makes for a nice variation to play from time to time. The next game I want to talk about is The Crew. I want to talk about this one because it's actually a fully cooperative trick-taking game, which is a bit of a cool twist there, and you're trying to complete missions, and how you complete that is by performing these tasks, which means that a specific player must take a certain trick that was set out at random from the task deck. At the beginning of the game, players take these tasks so you know who has the task, but you are not allowed to communicate what you have in your hand. Each player does have a single communication token, which will allow them to give a hint about what they have in their hand by placing out one card and then placing the token on that card either at the top, indicating it is your highest of that suit, in the middle, indicating that it is your only card of that suit, or at the bottom, indicating it is your lowest card of the suit. Now, if any crew member fails in their task, then the game is lost. So the team must work together to make sure certain tricks are taken by certain crew members with very limited communication. The missions start out quick and simple and become more complex as you progress through the logbook. And early missions can be played in just a few minutes, so this is a game where you can play several games back to back in a single gaming session. I really like the puzzle that has to be solved, especially as you start to realize that helping a teammate take a certain number might not be so easy. Now the next game I want to talk about is actually a solo trick-taking game called For Northwood. If you saw my first plays video for May, I talked a little about this game in that video. At first, I was skeptical about this game because it didn't seem like a solo trick-taking game should work. But after hearing lots of positive reviews about this game, and with my love for trick-taking games being sparked from my many years playing Spades, I finally decided I had to give this one a try, and it did not disappoint. Each game is played over 8 hands, and you have to try to win a bid at each number from 0 to 7 over the course of the game. You will first look at your hand of 8 cards and decide which ruler you want to visit. Now the rulers are placed out at random, and they determine the trump suit for the round, and the place they are represents how many tricks you must take, no more and no less. You have 4 helpers with special powers that you can use once each round to help you, and these become very important for pulling off a victory. Some of these powers allow you to discard cards, which can be helpful when you don't want to take many more tricks or any more tricks at all, while others let you draw cards, which is helpful when you need to take more tricks than you can at the moment. One allows you to look at the top 3 cards of the deck, which can help you prepare and maybe even inform your decisions on the power to use on your next trick. And there are so many other powers that can be just right for the moment. And when you win a round, you'll also gain that ruler to use for his or her ability on a future round one time, and it will replace one of your default allies for that round. Now the way the rounds themselves are played is first you use your ally ability if you want to, and then you flip over a card from the deck into a discard pile, and then you must play a card following the suit if you're able to. If you play a higher card of the same suit or trump that one, then you place your card in the scoring pile. If you do not take the trick, then you'll place your card in the discard pile. At the end of the round, if you got the exact number of tricks you were supposed to, then you gain that ruler's ability for later and the points indicated on the bid card. And the highest and lowest bids are worth the most points. In order to win the game, you must get at least 16 points for the bronze, or against 18 points for the silver, or gold is the perfect 20-point game. The game also has scenarios that change the setup of the game and provide special rules which makes the game trickier. They start out fairly easy and they get harder as they go. This game is a lot of fun and is very strategic, but also has a bit of luck involved, as sometimes I did just find myself hoping that certain cards did not come up towards the end of the round, or hoping that the right suit came up for me to take that last trick that I needed. Now luck is mitigated quite a bit by the powers, and also the game gives you quite a bit of strategy going into each round, as you can see your hand of cards and try to match it with the ruler and bid number that works well with the hand that you have, and then you can choose to bring in rulers that you've won over for their abilities that you think you might need that round. The depth of strategy in this one is quite big for such a simple concept of a trick-taking game, and it really just makes a solo trick-taking game work. The next game I want to talk about is Cat in the Box. The major twist for this trick-taking game is that none of your cards come with suits. You name the suit when you play the card. Now, of course, there are some rules that make this a little tricky. First rule to keep in mind is that the same card cannot be played twice in a round. So when you play a 6 and say it's a green, then no one else can play a green 6 the rest of that round. The second rule is that if you play offsuit, then you must declare you have no more of that suit and cannot declare a card to be that suit for the rest of the round. And finally, where things get tricky is that if you are unable to declare a card, then you create a paradox and you get negative points for each trick that you won that round instead of positive. Now, how does a paradox happen? Well, let's say the only card you have is a 2 and all the 2s have been claimed as played. Well, then you've created a paradox because you can't play your 2. Or only a suit which you declared to be out of is left. Or if you only have a 2 left and there's a green 2 open but you declared you don't have green. So a big part of the strategy is working out how to be able to play all of your cards without running into a paradox. The game also has a bidding system where you choose one of 3 bid options, and if you make your bid, then not only do you get 1 point per trick, but you also get to gain a point per your longest group of tokens on this board that are connected. Your tokens are played when you declare a card in a place matching the color and number of that card. And so an extra point of strategy in this game is trying to connect by playing cards that are adjacent on that board. But focusing on this too hard, you might find yourself blocking yourself into a corner where you create a paradox. This is one of the thinkiest trick-taking games I have played. The strategy is very complex in this game. This game is not for the novice trick-taking game player, but rather for those who would like to take this mechanism to the next level. It can be both a very frustrating trick-taking game and a very satisfying one as well, and also has some really nice components for tracking tricks. The final game I want to mention, I bring up with a caveat that I don't appreciate the scoring system for this game, but I just really like the twist it brings to trick-taking enough to at least mention it, and that game is Ghosts of Christmas. And while the scoring system has a huge runaway leader problem and requires a precision in bidding that if you fail, you get nothing in a game that does not allow you much time to come back from such a devastating bid system. The gameplay itself is very innovative though. In this game you are simultaneously playing 3 tricks over the course of 3 turns. You can choose whether you want to play in the past, the present, or the future, and will play 1 card in each by the end of that round of 3 cards. The first person to play a trick in one of those 3 places determines the suit for playing cards in that spot, and others must follow suit if they can. Now here is the kicker. The first player to play in the past will determine the suit for that one, but then the card of the winner of that trick actually determines the present suit when scoring, which could be different from what everyone played as their cards that round. And then the card played by the winner of the present determines what the suit for the future is going to be. Furthermore, since you can play in any one of the 3, you could offsuit yourself by leading a suit in a place that hasn't been played yet, so then you can trump where someone else played that same suit elsewhere on your second or third turn. And if you played offsuit in the present, you could still win that trick if you win the past, because now your offsuit card becomes the lead suit. Very neat way to play the game, and it can be very tricky to understand at first, but it clicks pretty quickly when you start playing. But then it adds a huge depth of strategy that I find super enjoyable. I just really did not like the bidding system and how the scoring works with it though. I would love to see this past, present, future system of trick-taking in another game, or perhaps use it with this game but implement house rules for how the scoring works. The system is simpler than Cat in the Box to learn and figure out how to play well, but still provides a huge depth to the game that elevates it above standard trick-taking games. I hope you have enjoyed this video, you've learned a little something about trick-taking games and the games that do this mechanism well. Let me know in the comments below which trick-taking games you really enjoy. And as always, I hope you have a great week and game on.